Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for choosing to be here with me today. Welcome back if you've been here before, and welcome if you're new here. Today, we're going to talk about ego defense mechanisms. So, these are patterns or habits that we learn in order to protect ourselves. So, these were founded by Freud, and the theory is that when we have uncomfortable or traumatic situations or emotions that come up, and there can be everyone's level of distress is different. So, something that's uncomfortable or traumatic for you might not be uncomfortable or traumatic for someone else. So, just trust what you feel with these things. But these defense mechanisms, they help the mind cope when we are feeling uncomfortable or traumatic situations or emotions. And sometimes, so they're beneficial in the immediate because they protect us, they help us feel safe, they help us, not feel the weight of the full emotional thing that's going on. But long term, ego defense mechanisms, they do more harm than good. So again, they offer some immediate relief in the moment. It could be something uncomfortable, stressful, anxiety inducing, traumatic. But overall, if it's a habit that we keep building up and a pattern that we keep acting in our lives, then they actually stop us from reaching a deeper level of feeling. They stop us from knowing how to identify our feelings, from how to work with them, from how to work through them, from how to develop healthy coping skills, and using healthy toolkits to deal with things instead of just really relying on this maladaptive behavior that, again, came from a place of us trying to protect ourselves because we felt in the situation that didn't feel the best. So if you have any of these going on for you, it's not to judge yourself or to make yourself feel bad or stupid. It's just something that you learn to protect yourself, but eventually part of the path of healing and creating emotional stability with yourself is releasing some of those things and moving into healthier ways of dealing with them. So today I'm going to talk through some common ego defense mechanisms and then kind of what you can do if you see that you have these patterns going on in your life and you want to change the behavior, because ultimately, again, it's not only harmful to you, but these can harm your interpersonal relationships, your friendships, your romantic relationships, if these are habits that you keep doing. And also, if these are being done to you, hopefully it will give you some validation around that so you can kind of be more aware of that. Okay, so the first one is intellectualization. So this is where someone talks about something threatening while keeping an emotional distance. So one example could be if someone's treating you in a way that doesn't feel the best, is like really disrespectful or degrading or even harmful to you, you might be in your mind of like, well, why are they treating me this way? If they say they love me or this is someone who's supposed to protect me, they're treating me this way maybe because of their childhood or because they had a stressful day at work or they're going through this thing, right? But what happens is that just, it makes us feel like we're doing something, but we're just getting stuck in our mind instead of taking action to do something about the situation. Or another example could be that you're just staying in your mind instead of feeling the feelings you need to feel. So in that situation, right, instead of feeling the feeling that like, wow, I have to end or change this relationship, I'm just going to keep playing it over and over in my mind. Another example could be if someone loses their partner, they pass away, and that person really focuses on scheduling the caterer and planning a memorial service and sending out all the invitations and like just a lot of this intellectualizing, thinking things or thinking my partner passed away, so I need to do this, this, and this, right? Instead of feeling the grief and the loss, again, trying to protect yourself, but you're not feeling the feelings. And so there's no moving through that. The second one is projection. So this is where someone attributes a threatening feeling or motive that they're experiencing to another person. So it's too much to face the facts of what they're doing. And so they project it onto someone else. So an example could be if someone is on dating apps or flirting with strangers or whatever, and then they accuse their partner of cheating, right? So they're doing the behavior, but they blame it on someone else. And again, this is because they don't have the emotional capacity or they're unwilling to look at their role in that. And so they put it on someone else. This could be a thing where someone also feels unprofessional or feels like they're not doing a good job, but they say someone else is being unprofessional when they're actually the one that is unprofessional. The next ego defense mechanism is reaction formation. So this is where someone denies a threatening feeling and they actually say they're feeling the opposite, right? So if someone is really their friends like make fun of them, or their parents or someone who they loved and cared about like is really mean or harmful to them, then maybe they might say, I don't care at all what you think, right? But they really care, they're really hurt, they just go the opposite way. Another example could be you really don't like someone, but that person, for whatever reason, you can't admit that you don't like them, but you express feelings of care and concern for them. And also can be true, right? You don't want to admit you like someone, so you just say that you don't like them and you hate them and they're so annoying, but you're really focused on them and putting a lot of your time and energy on them, even though you don't like them. Another example of reaction formation can be if you feel the very normal feelings of sadness or disappointment or a broken heart after a relationship ends, but you feel like you can't act like that, right? Then it could be the opposite, right? Oh, I'm totally happy. I can't wait to go out there and hook up with people or find my next partner, or, we'll see whatever happens. It's so great to be single again, right? Instead of feeling the feelings of being upset, feeling sad about what happened. The next ego defense mechanism is called splitting. So this is where someone, you want to avoid the perception of something being contaminated by like maybe a aspect or a character trait that you didn't think they had, or you don't want to believe that they have. So you kind of split them into like all good or all bad, right? It would taint the image that you have of this person, place, or thing. So it has to be all good or all bad. So an example could be, you really look up to your boss and you think they're so great, they're this amazing person, they can never do anything wrong, right? But we all know everyone has healthy and maybe not the most healthy characteristics in them. And so when these things come up of like, oh my God, you're not who I thought you were, it's healthier, or not healthier, but it's a protective mechanism to be like, you're all good or you're all bad. Which again is not true. Everyone has good and bad in them. All things have good and bad in them. They have characteristics we like, characteristics we don't like. But as a protective thing, we say, okay, this is all good and all bad. And sometimes it could be because that your boss or another authority figure, they have power over you. And so you have to see them in that way. It's like a safety, it's an attempt at safety. Next is repression. So this is unintentional most of the time. This is where you refuse to think about or acknowledge a painful emotion or event to the point that you're not even aware it existed, right? So an example of this could be if someone was raised in a home with abuse, and the abuse is documented, the child was taken out of the home, placed into foster care, all of that, right? But they deny they're ever abused. They have no memory of it, no recollection of this. This is really common with traumatic situations because the body can't hold that much awareness at once. And so it just kind of represses it. It's not even something that happened. The next is similar. This is called denial. So it's, again, a distortion of what you think and feel about reality, similar to repression, but denial tends to be more conscious. Like it's a conscious choice to deny something, whereas repression, you might not even have the memory of it. So denial, again, is similar to repression, but you're aware of and you can acknowledge that something happened, but you don't believe the severity or understand it. So an example would be that you owe on your credit card bill and you're getting contacted that you owe this money, or they're going to take your car, or something with your mortgage is going to be affected, right? And so you acknowledge that you got the notice, but you don't believe that it's going to be severe enough for you to take action or to look at it responsibly, right? There's this level of denial there. Okay, the next one is called displacement. And this is where someone directs their feelings or actions toward like a safe target when the person that they actually have these feelings or actions towards is inaccessible. It could be they're physically inaccessible, you don't have space to them anymore, you're not in proximity to them anymore. It could be that they have authority over you, power over you, so you can't express what you feel to them for whatever reason. And so you take it out on a safe target, usually someone that you have power over, or can't really threaten you back in that way. So an example would be if you have a problem with your boss, but you can't yell at your boss back, you can't stand up for yourself in a way that feels right. So you go home and you take it out on your pet, or you take it out on the person at the grocery store. Or let's say you go to a restaurant and you get really mad at your server, you go home, you're still upset, take it out on the people in your home instead of being able to work it out in that situation. The next one is rationalization. So this is where we feel really disappointed by something, but we create a good reason to justify it, right? So we don't feel as let down. We don't have to feel these intense feelings of disappointment, loss, grief, sadness, right? So for example, if you apply for a job and you're not selected, you don't get it. So you tell yourself, well, you know what? I didn't even want it anyway. It was too far away. It's not actually what I want to do. You know, you're justifying an outcome you don't want, because it's too much emotion to actually look at it. The next one is sublimation. So this is where you direct aggressive energy into like a more acceptable behavior, right? So instead, if you're really pissed off or frustrated about something, instead of like crashing into someone's car on the road, right? You go for a run, or you start boxing, or you do some other physical activity to get the energy out, right? So it's where aggressive behaviors are accepted and acceptable and expected to come out in those places, instead of putting it out onto places that is maybe not acceptable or accepted. The next one is called regression. So this is where you return to an earlier phase of development when you're faced with extreme stress, right? So one example could be if a 10-year-old is really stressed out at school and then they start wetting the bed, even though that's not a behavior they've done for a really long time, but it's because they're really in extreme stress, so they developmentally move backwards. Another example as an adult could be an adult doesn't get their way, they don't have healthy coping skills to deal with that, and so they throw a temper tantrum instead of handling it in a more emotionally mature way. The next one is called introjection. So this is where you absorb the values or standards of others. It could be for a variety of reasons. It could be to fit in, for safety, you're just around it too much, right? So it could be, for example, that you don't like smoking, you don't want to be a smoker, but you hang out with a bunch of people that do smoke. And so in order to when you're with those people, you just start smoking to do with that. Or it could be absorbing the values and beliefs of your parents, even if that's not what you believe. Again, it could just be this unconscious morphing into the people around you, or it could be for safety, it could be acceptance, it could be for validation, right? There's a lot of reasons why we do these things. But introduction is where you absorb the values and behaviors and patterns of people around you. Another defense mechanism is humor. This one's pretty common. So someone who isn't comfortable feeling any type of feeling of seriousness, or when it's time to show up and do something right, they use humor in kind of like inappropriate situations. So this isn't saying that you should never laugh or never have fun, right? But if in a very situation, they might crack a joke, or they might not take someone who's upset seriously. And again, it's because they can't feel the depth of their own emotions. And so they use humor to lighten the mood or to respond to something instead of being able to hold emotional depth. Next, we have identification. So this is where you develop a connection or relationship with a successful person or organization or even character trait, with the expectation that you'll be viewed in that same way, typically positively, by other people. So the goal is to improve your self-worth, avoid feeling like a failure. So one example could be when you were a child, if you saw the neighborhood kid that everyone looked up to, he was really big, he had a lot of muscles, he was cool, he was whatever, then you might be like, okay, I need to get muscles and then I'll be treated the same way. Doesn't necessarily mean that you will, but you typically identify with that way. Or okay, all these people who have social status and power all like this one sports team, so I'm going to like them too. Another one could be you see someone being treated a certain way based on how they look, so you decide you want to look that way as well, or you want to address people a certain way because you saw someone else acting in that way. So kind of replicating these behaviors because you believe it's going to help you be viewed positively by other people. Next is called compensation. And so this is where you focus on achievement in one area of your life to distract attention away from inadequacy or even the fear of inadequacy. You don't even have to be inadequate, right, in another area of your life. So this isn't to say that if you're not the number one best thing at everything that you're doing this, right? But let's say if a student isn't doing well academically, but they're really excelling in sports and extracurriculars, right? And this isn't, again, where you're okay, well, I'm doing fine, my grades are fine, they're not horrible, they're fine, but I'm really good at sports, right? This is where the grades, it's very alarming, they're very low, not not given any attention at all, but it's like, look over here, look at all these great things I'm doing with my extracurriculars and my sports, instead of looking at that situation. As an adult, it could be, there's fear of romantic relationships or finding a partner, but it's like, well, look how successful I am with my career, with all of these things. So I'm going to put all the attention on that instead of, focusing on that maybe I feel inadequate in this other area of my life. Another one is distortion. So this is where you believe something is true when it's not. So this is, again, to kind of protect you from connecting to, like, if a reality is really uncomfortable. So for example, if you fail a test, but it's because you say it's because, oh, this was so difficult, it was so hard, it was ever, but the person didn't actually study at all, right? Another example could be, so you convincing yourself that the situation is worse than it is. So let's say you have a disagreement with a longtime friend and you think, oh, okay, the friendship is over, I'm never going to connect with them again, like whatever, right? When it's just like, it's totally fine, but in your mind, it's completely distorted and totally different than what it was. And then the last one we're going to talk about is avoidance. This one's pretty self-explanatory, but it's where you dismiss thoughts or feelings that are uncomfortable. You avoid them. You don't want to look at them, or you keep away from particular people, places, situations, social events, types of activities that are associated with uncomfortable thoughts or feelings. So this is, again, just don't want to think about it at all, don't want to be exposed at all, just completely avoiding everything. So like I said in the beginning of the video, all of these defense mechanisms seem like they're helpful in the moment, because they are, but long-term, they're not helpful. They're not a healthy coping technique. They can damage us long-term. They can cause discomfort within ourselves and also in our interpersonal relationships. And so if you notice you have some of these, the first is to have compassion for yourself and just notice that that's something going on with you. The next is, of course, just pay attention to when you get triggered to do these things. What situations do you do these? Which ones do you do them? I always suggest talking to a therapist, journaling, reflecting. Notice, where did I learn this pattern from? Why do I think this is the behavior I need to do? What ways is it keeping me safe? Why do I feel like this is the appropriate reaction, right? And again, having some compassion for yourself. You don't have to blame yourself for this circumstance. Taking responsibility for yourself, yes, right? Like, this is a way I'm acting that's not the healthiest and I want to do something different. That's important. But don't beat yourself up forever about it. You can acknowledge, this is what I'm doing, I want to do something different, and then work towards change that. Meditation and mindfulness, being able to be aware of your behavior, and instead of engaging in that reactive behavior, taking a moment to pause and choosing to do something different instead. Getting curious about your emotions, just thinking, what is this emotion teaching me? Why is it here? What could I learn from this? What's going on? Instead of pushing it away or feeling like I can't deal with this, right? You don't have to deal with it all at once, but you can trust yourself to develop a healthy toolkit to work through that. And again, talk therapy, really recommended, talking with a counselor or a therapist, and just trying to get clear about, why do I do this? What's going on? Being reflective, journaling, again, just increasing your own awareness and looking inward and saying, why am I doing this? And do I need to keep doing this? And again, some of them we can control more than others, but again, being compassionate with ourselves, exploring our emotions, trying to say, okay, I can have different behavior, I can do different things here. Okay, that's everything I have for you. Thank you so much for choosing to be here with me today. If you want any more information about me, all that is linked below. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful day.